Ambassador Chen Wei-lin stood at the tall window of her office in Geneva. The morning sun made the lake shine like gold. Birds sang in the trees outside. It was a peaceful day. She did not know it would be her last peaceful day for many years. Her assistant knocked on the door. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. "Ambassador, there is a message from the Galactic Concord. Priority 1. Chen felt her stomach tighten. In the 3 years since humanity had made first contact with alien life, she had learned to fear Priority 1 messages. They never brought good news. She sat at her desk and opened the secure channel. The face that appeared on her screen was not human. It belonged to a Kreth, a tall, gray-skinned species with 4 eyes and a mouth full of sharp teeth. This particular Kreth was High Arbiter Voss, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. "Ambassador Chen," Voss said. His voice was cold and flat. "The High Tribunal of the Galactic Concord has reached a decision regarding the Thessari refugee crisis." Chen leaned forward. She had heard about the Thessari. 3 months ago, the Valorian Empire had invaded their homeworld. The Valorians were a warrior species. They believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. The Thessari were the opposite, a gentle, peaceful species with no army and no weapons. The invasion had taken only 6 days. Millions had died. The survivors had fled into space with nothing but the clothes on their bodies. "The Concord has decided on a resettlement plan," Voss continued. 6 million Thessari refugees will be transported to Earth. They will arrive in 72 hours. Chen could not speak for a moment. She thought she had heard wrong. "I am sorry," she said slowly. "Did you say 6 million? To Earth?" "That is correct. But we cannot. High Arbiter, Earth has never hosted alien refugees before. We do not have the facilities. We do not know what they eat, how they breathe, what temperatures they need. 72 hours is not enough time to prepare for 6 million people." Voss's 4 eyes blinked slowly. "The Concord understands this will be difficult." "Difficult?" Chen stood up. Her voice rose. "This is impossible. We need time. We need resources. We need help from the Concord. The Concord will not provide assistance. This is a resettlement, not a joint operation. The Thessari are now Earth's responsibility." Chen felt her heart beating fast. She forced herself to stay calm. "May I ask why Earth was chosen for this? Honor?" Something that might have been a smile crossed Voss's face. "Earth is a growing world. The tribunal believes you have room for expansion. And of course there is the matter of your recent behavior in the trade negotiations." Now Chen understood. Last month, she had publicly challenged the Concord's unfair trade rules. She had called them exploitative. She had demanded changes. The other, lesser species had watched in silence, but she had seen hope in their eyes. The Concord did not like hope in the eyes of lesser species. This was punishment, pure and simple. "The Thessari have no value to the conquered," Voss said, as if reading her thoughts. "They have no military strength. They have no rare resources. They have no useful technology. They are, frankly, a burden. We are giving you the opportunity to prove that Earth is as compassionate as you claim. And if we refuse?" Voss leaned closer to the camera. "You will not refuse. The ships are already on their way. If you fire upon them, it will be considered an act of war against the Concord. If you turn them away, the Thessari will die in space, and that blood will be on human hands. Either way, Earth loses." The transmission ended. Chen stared at the blank screen for a long time. Then she picked up her phone and made a call that would change human history. 12 hours later, the United Nations Security Council met in emergency session. The room was full of the most powerful leaders on Earth. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, scientists, they all wore the same expression, fear mixed with anger. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo stood at the podium. She was a tall woman from Nigeria with gray hair and calm eyes. In her 30 years of public service, she had faced many crises, but nothing like this. "Let me make sure everyone understands the situation," she said. "In 60 hours, transport ships carrying 6 million Thessari refugees will enter Earth's atmosphere. They will need food, water, shelter, and medical care. They are not human. We do not fully understand their biology, and the Galactic Concord has made it clear they will not help us." The Russian representative slammed his fist on the table. "This is an act of war. They are using refugees as weapons against us. They are using them as garbage, said the Japanese representative quietly. "They are dumping them on us because they do not want them. Then we should dump them right back," the American representative said. "Let them die in space. That is not our problem." A murmur of agreement went through the room. Chen, who was sitting in the corner, felt sick to her stomach. Secretary General Okonkwo raised her hand for silence. "I understand the anger in this room. I share it. The Concord has treated us with contempt since the day we met them. They see us as primitives. They see us as lesser beings. And now, they expect us to fail. They expect us to turn away 6 million innocent people and prove that we are exactly as cruel as they are." She paused and looked around the room. "But we are not them. That is the whole point. We are not them." The Brazilian representative spoke up. "With respect, Madam Secretary General, we cannot save everyone. We have our own hungry, our own homeless, our own sick. How can we take care of 6 million aliens when we cannot even take care of our own people? We cannot do it alone." Okonkwo agreed. "But we do not have to do it alone. Every nation here has something to offer. Land, food, medicine, knowledge. If we work together, we can do this. If we stand divided, we will fail, and the Concord wins." "And if we do fail?" asked the Chinese representative. "What then?" Okonkwo looked at him steadily. "Then we fail trying. And that is still better than failing because we did not try at all." The debate continued for hours. Some nations refused to participate. Others demanded guarantees that would be impossible to meet. But slowly, painfully, a plan began to form. Not a perfect plan, not even a good plan, but a plan. By the time the sun rose over Geneva, the Global Thesauri Integration Authority had been created. It was underfunded, understaffed, and facing an impossible deadline. But it existed. That was a start. Commander Sarah Torres had been a pilot for 15 years. She had flown combat missions, rescue operations, and diplomatic escorts. But she had never seen anything like the ships now appearing in Earth's sky. There were hundreds of them. They were Concorde transport vessels, massive gray cylinders with no windows and no beauty. They looked like coffins floating in space. As they descended through the atmosphere, they blocked out the sun over half of Europe. Torres was flying her fighter jet alongside the lead transport. Her orders were simple. Observe and report. Do not engage. Do not interfere. Just watch. Through her cockpit window, she could see the transport's hull. It was scarred and dented. Rust or something like rust covered large sections. These were not passenger ships. They were cargo haulers. The Concorde had loaded 6 million living beings onto cargo haulers. Her radio crackled. "Commander Torres, this is Geneva Control. The first transport is requesting landing coordinates. We are directing them to the primary reception zone in southern France. Please escort." "Understood, Geneva Control." Torres banked her jet and took position ahead of the transport. "I will guide them in." As she flew, she thought about what waited below. In the past 60 hours, an army of workers had transformed empty fields into a temporary city. Tents stretched for miles. Water tanks, food supplies, and medical stations had been airlifted from all over the world. Thousands of volunteers had arrived, ready to help. It would not be enough. Everyone knew it would not be enough, but it was what they had. The transport touched down with a sound like thunder. The ground shook. Dust clouds rose into the air. Torres circled overhead and watched as the massive doors began to open. For a long moment, nothing happened. The doors stood open, revealing only darkness inside. Then they came. The Thesauri walked slowly, blinking in the bright sunlight. They were humanoid in shape, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, but their skin was different. It was pale blue and slightly transparent, and it glowed with a soft inner light. Their eyes were large and dark, like deep pools of water. They had no hair, but delicate patterns of light moved across their scalps like living tattoos. They were beautiful, and they were terrified. Torres watched as the first Thesauri stepped onto Earth's soil. It was a female, carrying a small child in her arms. The child's glow was faint and flickering, a sign of sickness or starvation. Torres would later learn. The mother looked around at the strange world, the strange sky, the strange beings waiting to receive her. Then, a human woman stepped forward. She was a doctor, wearing a white coat and a kind smile. She spoke in slow, clear English, not knowing if the Thesauri could understand. "Welcome to Earth. We are here to help you. Please, come with me. The Thessary mother stared at her. The patterns of light on her skin shifted and changed her species' way of expressing emotion. Then, slowly, she reached out and took the doctor's hand. Behind her, thousands more Thessary began to emerge from the transport, and behind them, hundreds more ships were landing across the globe. The largest refugee crisis in human history had begun. High Arbiter Voss watched the footage from his office on the Concorde's capital station. His 4 eyes moved independently, tracking different screens showing different landing sites across Earth. Interesting, he said to his assistant. They are actually trying. It will not last, the assistant replied. Our projections show that Earth's resources will be depleted within 6 months. Their economy will collapse, their governments will fall, and then the Thessary will die anyway, along with millions of humans. It is simple mathematics. Voss nodded slowly. Perhaps, but I have learned not to underestimate these humans. They are unpredictable. Unpredictability is not a strength. It is a flaw. So we have always believed. Voss turned away from the screens. Continue monitoring. I want daily reports on every aspect of this situation. If the humans surprise us, I want to know immediately. Yes, High Arbiter. And what of the Valorians? They are asking if we will take any action regarding their invasion of Thessary Prime. Voss made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Valorians are strong. The Thessary were weak. The strong consume the weak. That is the natural order. The Concorde does not interfere with the natural order. Of course, High Arbiter. After his assistant left, Voss stood at his own window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, 6 million refugees were beginning new lives on a primitive planet. He wondered how many would survive the year. He suspected the answer was 0. In a temporary shelter in southern France, a Thessary elder named HFY sat on a thin mattress and looked at the strange ceiling above her. She was 300 years old, middle-aged for her species, and she had seen much in her long life. But she had never imagined she would see her homeworld burn. She had never imagined she would be cast out among the stars like garbage. The humans around her were busy. They moved constantly, carrying supplies, setting up equipment, shouting instructions to each other. They seemed to never rest. And they smiled at her. That was the strangest thing. They smiled. In the Galactic Concorde, no one smiled at the Thessary. They were considered useless, a species with no purpose, taking up space that could be used by others. The Valorians had conquered them easily because no one in the galaxy cared enough to stop it. But these humans, they seemed to care. A young human approached HFY's bed. He was carrying a bowl of something that steamed in the cool air. He could not have been more than 20 years old, with dark skin and bright eyes. Hello, he said slowly. I am Marcus. Are you hungry? HFY did not understand all of his words, but she understood the gesture. She reached out and took the bowl. The food inside was strange, nothing she recognized, but it was warm, and the smell was not unpleasant. She took a small bite. It was not good. It was not meant for her biology, but it was food, and she was starving. The young human watched her anxiously. Is it okay? We do not know what you eat. We are trying to learn. HFY looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she let her skin glow brighter, a sign of gratitude among her people. The human's face lit up with joy. He did not know what her glow meant, but he seemed to understand that it was something good. I will bring more, he said. We will figure this out, I promise. He ran off, and HFY watched him go. Around her, the shelter was full of chaos and confusion. Thessary children cried for parents they had lost. Human doctors struggled to understand bodies that were completely alien to them. Supplies were running low, tempers were running high, and yet, beneath all the chaos, there was something else. Something that HFY had not felt in a long time. Hope. It was small. It was fragile. It might not survive the night, but it was there. The humans had been given an impossible task. They had been set up to fail. They had every reason to turn the Thessary away and save themselves, but they had not. They had chosen compassion. HFY did not know if it would be enough. She did not know if any of them would survive what was coming. But for the first time since her world had burned, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was still good in the universe. Outside, the sun was setting on the first day of a new era. The stars were coming out. cold and distant, and somewhere among those stars, the beings who had thrown the Thessari away like garbage were waiting for humanity to prove them right. They would have to wait a long time. The first death came on the third day. Her name was Thesriva. She was 4 years old. She had survived the bombing of her city, the long march to the evacuation ships, and the terrible journey through space. But she could not survive the simple bacteria in Earth's water. Dr. Maria Santos held the small body in her arms and cried. Around her, the medical tent was full of sick Thessari, hundreds of them, all suffering from the same symptoms: fever, pain, their inner glow fading to almost nothing. "We are killing them," Maria whispered to her colleague. "We are trying to save them, and we are killing them instead." The colleague, a young man named David, put his hand on her shoulder. "We did not know. How could we know? Their biology is completely different from ours. We should have known. We should have been prepared. There was no time to prepare. You know that." Maria laid the child's body gently on a clean sheet. She looked at the rows of sick Thessari, at their frightened families, at the overwhelmed medical staff running from bed to bed. "Then we must learn fast," she said, "or more will die." She did not sleep for the next 72 hours. Neither did her team. They took blood samples, studied tissue, ran every test they could think of. They contacted universities around the world, begging for help. They worked until their hands shook and their eyes burned. On the fourth day, a message came from a research lab in Brazil. A scientist there had found something, a possible treatment. It was not perfect, but it might work. Maria read the message 3 times to make sure she understood. Then she started making calls. Within 6 hours, every medical facility in the world was producing the new treatment. Within 12 hours, they were shipping it to every refugee camp on Earth. Within 24 hours, the death rate began to fall. It was not enough. More Thessari died in those first terrible weeks, but fewer died than would have died without the treatment. And the scientists kept working, kept learning, kept improving. It was the first small victory in what would become a very long war. Secretary General Amara Okonkwo stood before the cameras once again. It had been 30 days since the refugees arrived. The whole world was watching her. They wanted answers. They wanted hope. She was not sure she had either. "My fellow human beings," she began. "1 month ago, we were given an impossible choice. We could turn away 6 million innocent people and let them die in space, or we could open our arms and try to save them. We chose the second path, not because it was easy, not because we knew we could succeed, but because it was right." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "I will not lie to you. The past 30 days have been the hardest in our history. We have made mistakes. We have lost lives, both Thessari and human. We have spent billions of dollars that many say we do not have. And we are far from finished. The road ahead is long, and it is dark, and we cannot see the end. But we are walking it together. Every nation, every community, every person who has donated food, or volunteered time, or simply shown kindness to a stranger from another world. You have shown the galaxy what humanity truly is. We are not perfect. We never have been. But we do not abandon those in need. We do not close our eyes to suffering. We do not turn our backs on the weak. The beings who sent these refugees to us expected us to fail. They expected us to prove that we are no better than they are. They expected cruelty to be our guide. We will show them a different path." She ended her speech. The cameras stopped recording, and for a moment, she allowed herself to feel the weight of everything that was happening. Then she straightened her shoulders and went back to work. There was too much to do. There would always be too much to do. In a small fishing village in Japan, a deaf woman named Yuki Tanaka was about to make a discovery that would change everything. Yuki had been deaf since birth. She communicated through sign language, a visual way of speaking that used hand movements and facial expressions. When the first Thessari refugees arrived at the camp near her village, she had volunteered to help. At first, she felt useless. The Thessari did not understand sign language, of course, and she could not hear them speak. But then she noticed something strange. The Thessari did not just speak with their voices. They also spoke with light. The glowing patterns on their skin changed constantly, forming shapes and movements that seemed to carry meaning. Yuki watched these patterns for hours. She began to see a structure to them, a grammar, a logic. It was a language, a visual language, just like sign language. On the 40th day, Yuki approached a young Thesari girl who sat alone by the fence of the camp. The girl's parents had died on the journey to Earth. She had not spoken to anyone since. Yuki sat down beside her. She did not try to speak. Instead, she raised her hands and made a simple sign, the sign for hello, in Japanese Sign Language. The Thesari girl looked at her with confusion. Her skin flickered with uncertain light. Yuki tried again. She pointed to herself and made the sign for her name. Then she pointed to the girl with a questioning look. The girl stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she raised her own hand. Her skin began to glow in a specific pattern. A pattern that Yuki somehow understood meant friend. Yuki's eyes filled with tears. She nodded and made the sign for friend in return. From that moment, the two of them met every day. Yuki learned the Thesari light language, and she taught the girl Japanese Sign Language. They created a bridge between two worlds, using nothing but their hands and their eyes. Word spread quickly. Other deaf people from around the world came to learn. They discovered that the deaf community could learn Thesari light language much faster than hearing people could. They were already used to visual communication. They understood how to read meaning and movement and pattern. Within months, a new form of communication had been created, a blend of human sign language and Thesari light patterns that both species could understand. It was not perfect, but it worked. The hearing world had always seen deaf people as having a disability. Now, suddenly, they had an ability that no one else possessed. They became the first true translators between human and Thesari. They became the bridges that held two species together. The little deaf woman from Japan had given humanity a gift beyond measure. Marcus Johnson had joined the volunteer corps because he had nothing else to do. He was 22 years old, a military veteran, and completely lost. The war in Africa had broken something inside him. He could not sleep without nightmares. He could not be around loud noises without panicking. He had tried to rejoin normal life, but normal life felt like a foreign country. When he heard about the refugee crisis, he signed up without thinking. At least it was something to do. At least it was a purpose. He was assigned to a camp in Portugal, on an old farm that had been converted into a shelter. His job was simple: help with construction, carry supplies, do whatever needed doing. It was hard physical work, and he was grateful for it. When his body was tired, his mind was quiet. On his third week at the camp, he met an elderly Thesari named Ishilra. She was sitting alone outside her tent, looking at the sky. Her skin glowed faintly, and her dark eyes seemed to hold infinite sadness. Something about her reminded Marcus of his grandmother, the same quiet dignity, the same deep weariness. He sat down beside her without speaking. They stayed like that for a long time, two broken souls in comfortable silence. After a while, Ishilra turned to look at him. She did not speak English well yet, but she was learning. "You carry pain," she said softly. "I can feel it." Marcus was surprised. "You can feel it? How?" "My people are empaths. We sense emotions. Yours are very loud." Marcus did not know what to say to that. He was not used to talking about his feelings. He was not sure he even knew what his feelings were anymore. Ishilra reached out and touched his arm. Her fingers were cool and slightly damp, like touching morning dew. "You do not need to speak," she said. "I can help, if you allow me." "Help how?" She did not answer with words. Instead, her skin began to glow more brightly, and Marcus felt something strange happening. It was like warmth spreading through his chest, loosening knots he had not even known were there. The constant tension in his shoulders began to fade. The racing of his heart slowed. For the first time in years, he felt something like peace. When Ishilra removed her hand, Marcus was crying. He did not know why. He just sat there and cried, and she sat beside him without judgment. "What did you do to me?" he asked finally. "I helped you feel what you have been hiding," she said. "Your pain is still there. It will take time to heal, but you do not have to carry it alone." From that day forward, Marcus came to sit with Ishilra every evening. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they just sat in silence. And slowly, session by session, he began to heal. He was not the only one. Word spread about what the Thesari could do. Their empathic abilities, which had been useless in a galaxy that valued only strength and power, proved to be invaluable on Earth. They could help with trauma. They could calm fear and anger. They could help people understand each other in ways that words alone could never achieve. The species that the Concord had called worthless was turning out to be worth more than anyone had imagined. High Arbiter Voss read the report with growing unease. It had been 100 days since the refugees arrived on Earth. According to all projections, the human economy should have collapsed by now. Food riots should have begun. Governments should have fallen. None of that had happened. "Explain this," he demanded of his assistant. "How are they still functioning?" The assistant shifted nervously. "It appears the humans have implemented several creative solutions. They have redistributed resources on a global scale. They have developed new agricultural techniques with Thessari assistance. They have created communication systems that allow for effective coordination. That is impossible. They are primitives. They have been a spacefaring species for less than a century." "Yes, High Arbiter. And yet the data is clear. They are not only surviving, they are adapting." Voss was silent for a long moment. "And the Thessari? Most have survived. The initial death toll was significant, but the humans developed medical treatments faster than expected. Current Thessari population on Earth is approximately 5.7 million. That is unexpected. There is more, High Arbiter. Our observers on Earth have reported something unusual. The humans and Thessari are not merely coexisting. They are forming bonds, friendships. Some are even forming families. Families between species. Not biological families, High Arbiter, but emotional bonds of similar strength. The humans have a concept they call found family. It seems they are applying this concept to the Thessari." Voss turned to look out his window at the stars. He had lived for 500 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had seen species conquer and be conquered. He had never seen anything like this. "Continue monitoring," he said finally. "I want to know everything that happens on Earth. Every detail." "Yes, High Arbiter." "Should we consider intervention?" "Not yet, but soon, perhaps. If the humans continue to surprise us, we may need to adjust our approach." After his assistant left, Voss stood alone with his thoughts. The humans had done something the Concord had not expected. They had chosen compassion over cruelty. They had turned burden into opportunity. They had proven that the Concord's calculations were wrong. That was dangerous. If other species saw what the humans had done, they might start to question the Concord's way of doing things. They might start to wonder if there was another path. Such thoughts could not be allowed to spread. On Earth, the sun was rising over the camps once again. In Portugal, Marcus was helping to build a permanent school where human and Thessari children would learn together. In Japan, Yuki was training a new generation of translators. In Brazil, Dr. Maria Santos was developing treatments that would save thousands more lives. And in a small garden that the refugees had planted, Ishilra knelt among the flowers. They were strange flowers, from a strange world, but they were beautiful, and they were growing. A human child ran past, chasing a Thessari child. Their laughter filled the morning air. They did not see any difference between themselves. They were just children, playing in the sun. Ishilra watched them, and felt something she had not felt in a long time. Not just hope, something stronger. Something that felt almost like faith. The beings who had thrown her people away had expected them to die. They had expected the humans to fail. They had expected cruelty to triumph, as it always had in the cold equations of the galaxy. But they had not counted on the simple power of kindness. They had not understood that compassion was not weakness, it was strength of a different kind. The first 100 days were over. The next 100 would bring new challenges, new struggles, new losses. But they would also bring new victories, new connections, new reasons to believe. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was showing them something they had never seen before. 3 years had passed since the ships first darkened Earth's sky. The world had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The camps were mostly gone now. In their place stood new communities, neighborhoods where humans and Thessari lived side by side. The streets had names in both languages. The shops sold food from 2 worlds. Children walked to school together, their laughter mixing with the soft glow of Thessari skin. It was not perfect. Nothing ever was. But it was working. Marcus stood at the door of his small apartment in Lisbon and looked out at the morning. He was 30 now, no longer the broken young man who had arrived at the camps 5 years ago. The nightmares still came sometimes, but they were quieter now. The panic attacks had almost stopped. He had a job, friends, a life that felt worth living. And he had HFY. She was not his mother had died when he was 12. She was not his grandmother had passed away while he was at war. But she was something, family, in a way that had no name but was no less real. She had saved him. Her patient kindness, her gentle healing, her willingness to sit with him through his darkest hours, she had given him back to himself. And in return, he had helped her navigate this strange new world. He had taught her English, shown her how to use human technology, defended her against those who wished her harm. They were each other's bridge between two worlds. This morning, he was taking her somewhere special. It was a surprise, and he was nervous. He hoped she would like it. The hover bus took them across the city to a new building on the waterfront. It was beautiful, all glass and light, with Thessari patterns worked into the architecture. A sign above the entrance read, "The Thessari Human Cultural Center. Opening Day." HFY's skin flickered with surprise. "What is this place?" Marcus smiled. "A gift. From Portugal to the Thessari people. There will be art, music, history, both our cultures, together. And there is something else inside. Something I want to show you." He led her through the entrance into a vast hall filled with light. Human and Thessari visitors walked together, looking at displays that told the story of both species. There were Thessari light sculptures that moved and changed, responding to the emotions of those who watched. There were human paintings and photographs, showing scenes from the first days of the refugee crisis. There was music playing, a new kind of music that blended human instruments with Thessari harmonic singing. But Marcus did not stop at any of these. He led HFY to a smaller room at the back of the building. Inside was a garden. It was not like any garden HFY had seen before. The plants were from Thessari prime species that had been thought extinct when the planet fell. Scientists had found seeds in the refugees' belongings, carefully preserved. They had worked for years to grow them in Earth's soil, and they had succeeded. HFY stood frozen at the entrance. Her skin glowed brighter than Marcus had ever seen, cycling through colors he did not have names for. Tears, the first tears he had ever seen her shed, fell from her dark eyes. "These are the flowers of my childhood," she whispered. "I thought I would never see them again." She walked slowly into the garden, touching each plant as if it might disappear. Some of the flowers responded to her presence, their petals opening wider, their own faint glow increasing. "How?" she asked. "How is this possible?" Marcus stood beside her. A lot of people worked very hard. Scientists, gardeners, Thessari who remembered the old growing techniques. It took 3 years, but we wanted you to have a piece of home. This is not just for me. No, it is for all of your people. But I wanted you to see it first, because you helped me find my home again, HFY. I wanted to do the same for you." She turned and embraced him. Her arms were thin and cool, but her glow was warm against his skin. For a long moment, they simply held each other, two survivors, two healers, two friends. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for not giving up on us. On any of us. Thank you for not giving up on me," he replied. In Geneva, Ambassador Chen Wei-Lin sat in her office and reviewed the latest reports. The numbers were remarkable. Thessari integration had exceeded every projection. Unemployment among refugees had dropped to just 12%. Crime rates in mixed communities were lower than in human-only areas. And the Thessari contributions to human society had become impossible to ignore. Their empathic abilities had revolutionized mental health treatment. Therapists trained in Thessari techniques were helping humans overcome trauma, addiction, and emotional disorders that had resisted all other treatments. The suicide rate in countries with large Thessari populations had dropped by 30%. Their agricultural knowledge had solved food shortages in dozens of developing nations. The bioluminescent algae farms they had designed produced more protein per acre than any human technology. And they did it without harming the environment. Regions that had struggled with hunger for generations now had food to spare. Their art and music had captured human hearts. Thessari light sculptures were displayed in museums around the world. Thessari composers had won human awards. A new generation of artists, both human and Thessari, was creating works that neither species could have imagined alone. It was not just coexistence. It was something deeper. Something that was changing both species for the better. Chen looked up as her assistant entered. "The Concord Observer is here for his monthly inspection," the assistant said. Chen sighed. Every month, the Concord sent someone to document Earth's progress. They were still waiting for failure, still hoping to prove that humanity was not as strong as it appeared. Each month, they went away disappointed. Send him in. The observer was a small, gray-skinned creature with too many eyes. He walked around Chen's office, examining everything with obvious disdain. Your integration metrics continue to improve, he said. His voice was high and unpleasant. The High Tribunal finds this surprising. Surprising? Chen kept her voice calm. We find it quite natural. When you treat people with kindness, they tend to flourish. Kindness. The observer made a sound that might have been a laugh. A quaint concept. Not very useful in the larger galaxy. Perhaps the larger galaxy could learn something new. The observer stopped and looked at her directly. All of his eyes focused on her face, and Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The Concord has noted your influence on certain lesser species, he said. Several have expressed interest in the Earth model of integration. This is not viewed favorably. We have not sought to influence anyone. We have simply done what we believed was right. That is precisely the problem, Ambassador. When primitives start believing they know what is right, the established order becomes unstable. The Concord values stability above all else. Chen stood and faced the observer directly. The Concord sent us 6 million people to destroy us. We turned them into partners. If that threatens your stability, perhaps your order was not as stable as you believed. The observer stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward the door. The Concord is patient, Ambassador. We have existed for 10,000 years. We will still exist when Earth is dust. Remember that. After he left, Chen sat heavily in her chair. The threat was clear. The Concord was not pleased with humanity's success, and the Concord was very, very powerful. But Chen was not afraid. Not anymore. She had seen what humanity could do when it chose compassion over cruelty. She had seen the power of kindness. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The attack came without warning. It was a sunny afternoon in Munich. The Thessari Cultural Festival was in full swing, with thousands of humans and Thessari celebrating together in the city's main square. There was music and dancing, food and laughter. Children ran between the stalls, their faces painted with both human and Thessari designs. Marcus was there with HFY, enjoying the festivities. He had just bought her a strange fruit that was supposed to taste like something from her homeworld. When he heard the first explosion, the world went white. Then it went silent. Then the screaming began. Marcus found himself on the ground, covered in dust and debris. His ears were ringing. He could not remember falling. He tried to stand, but his legs would not cooperate. HFY, he shouted. His voice sounded far away, muffled by the ringing. HFY, he crawled through the wreckage, searching. Bodies lay everywhere, human and Thessari alike. Some were moving, some were not. The air smelled of smoke and blood. He found her near the stage, her body curled protectively around a Thessari child. Her glow was faint, flickering like a dying candle. No, he whispered. No, no, no. He gathered her in his arms. Her eyes opened slowly, and she looked up at him. The child, she said weakly. Is the child safe? Marcus looked at the small Thessari beside her. The child was crying, frightened, but unharmed. HFY had used her own body as a shield. The child is safe, Marcus said. His voice was breaking. You saved her, but you need to hold on. Help is coming. HFY smiled. Her skin flickered with a gentle light. You have been such a gift, Marcus. Such a good friend. Do not talk like that. You are going to be fine. I am old, she said. Older than I look. This was always going to end someday. I am just glad it ends here, on this beautiful world, with my family around me. Please, Marcus begged. Tears streamed down his face. Please do not leave me. HFY reached up and touched his cheek. Her fingers were cold. I will never leave you. I am part of you now. All the love I gave you, it lives inside you. Pass it on. That is how we survive. Her light faded. Her eyes closed. And she was gone. Marcus held her body and wept. Around him, the city burned. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. But all he could see was the gentle old soul who had saved him, who had loved him, who had given everything to protect a child she barely knew. The attack killed 40 Thesari and 12 humans. A group calling themselves Humanity First claimed responsibility. They said the Thesari were a threat, that they were stealing human jobs and corrupting human culture. They said the attack was just the beginning. They were wrong. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. Instead of turning against the Thesari, humanity turned toward them. Vigils were held in every major city. Millions marched in solidarity. Donations poured in to help the victims and their families. World leaders gave speeches condemning the attack. Ordinary people opened their homes to frightened Thesari neighbors. Human children held hands with Thesari children and promised to protect them. The attackers had wanted to drive the two species apart. Instead, they had driven them closer together. At HFY's memorial service, Marcus stood before thousands of mourners, human and Thesari alike. He spoke about her kindness, her wisdom, her gentle healing hands. He spoke about what she had taught him, that compassion was not weakness, that love was stronger than hate, that two species from different stars could become family. They wanted us to be afraid, he said, his voice steady despite his grief. They wanted us to turn on each other. But that is not who we are. That is not what HFY taught us. She taught us that we are stronger together. She taught us that kindness is the most powerful force in the universe. And as long as we remember that, as long as we live by that truth, she will never truly be gone. The crowd glowed in response, Thesari light patterns spreading through the assembly like a wave. And the humans among them raised candles and phones, adding their own light to the darkness. Two species, standing together, refusing to give in to fear. It was exactly what HFY would have wanted. The Concord observers recorded everything. They transmitted the footage to the High Tribunal, expecting it to confirm their predictions. The humans were fighting among themselves. The integration was failing. Soon, the whole experiment would collapse. But when High Arbiter Voss reviewed the footage, he saw something different. He saw a species that had been attacked and had responded not with division but with unity. He saw humans and Thesari standing together, refusing to be broken. He saw a threat. Increase surveillance, he ordered, and begin contingency planning. If Earth continues on this path, we may need to take more direct action. What kind of action, High Arbiter? Voss turned back to the screens, watching the memorial service unfold. The kind that ensures this disease of compassion does not spread beyond their little planet. On Earth, the sun was setting on another day. In the streets of Munich, humans and Thesari were cleaning up the rubble together. In the skies above, the stars were coming out cold and distant, watching. A storm was coming. But for now, there was peace and hope and the unbreakable bond of two species who had chosen love over fear. It would have to be enough. 7 years after the refugees arrived, Ambassador Chen Wei-lin received a secret message. It came in the middle of the night, through channels so encrypted that even Earth's best computers could barely read it. The sender was anonymous, but the message was clear. We need your help. The Valorians are coming for us next. The Concord will not protect us. You are our only hope. Chen sat alone in her office and stared at the screen. The message was from the Keth, a small, peaceful species who lived on a planet at the edge of Valorian space. They were farmers and artists, with no weapons and no military. They were exactly the kind of species the Valorians loved to conquer, and they were asking Earth for help. Chen thought about what this meant. Earth had no real military power compared to the great galactic empires. Their ships were small and slow. Their weapons were primitive. If they tried to fight the Valorians directly, they would be destroyed in hours. But there were other ways to help. She sent a reply. We cannot protect you from invasion, but if you can reach Earth, we will give you sanctuary. Spread the word to others who need help. Our doors are open. Within a week, 3 more species had sent similar messages, then 5 more, then 12. The galaxy was watching Earth, and the galaxy was taking notes. High Arbiter Voss summoned an emergency session of the High Tribunal. The meeting chamber was vast and cold, designed to intimidate lesser beings. Hundreds of representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species sat in tiered rows, looking down at a central platform. Today, that platform was occupied by Voss and his display screens. The human problem has grown beyond acceptable limits, Voss announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. What began as a simple disposal of unwanted refugees has become a threat to galactic stability. He activated the screens, showing images and data. In the past 7 years, Earth has successfully integrated over 6 million Thesari refugees. This alone was unexpected. But now they are expanding their influence. 12 lesser species have secretly requested asylum on Earth. 18 more are considering it. If this trend continues, humanity will become a rallying point for every weak and useless species in the galaxy. A Valorian commander stood. He was huge and muscular, with red skin and a face built for war. "Let me take my fleet to Earth. I will end this problem in a single day." "That would be unwise," said a representative from the Trade Coalition. "Earth has significant economic ties with over 40 conquered members. An attack would disrupt trade severely. Then we strangle them slowly," suggested a voice from the shadows. "Economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, cut off their access to galactic resources." Voss raised a hand for silence. "All options are being considered. But first, we must understand what makes the humans so appealing to these lesser species. Our analysis suggests it is something called compassion, a primitive emotional response that prioritizes the welfare of others over rational self-interest." The Valorian commander laughed. "Compassion? That is their weapon? We crush compassion beneath our boots every day. Perhaps that is why they fear you," Voss said. "And why they turn to the humans instead." The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the great powers of the galaxy considered that their strength might also be their weakness, that their cruelty might be driving others away. "We will continue monitoring," Voss said finally. "But I recommend we prepare for more direct action. If Earth cannot be controlled through indirect means, more forceful measures may be required." The tribunal voted. The motion passed unanimously. Somewhere across the vast darkness of space, humanity had no idea what was coming. The first asylum seekers arrived on a Tuesday. They were Keth, small, furry creatures with large eyes and gentle hearts. Their ship was old and barely functional. It had taken them 3 months to cross the galaxy, hiding from Valorian patrols and conquered inspectors. There were only 200 of them. The first of many. Ambassador Chen met them personally at the landing site. She brought translators, doctors, and supplies. She brought something else too, a promise. "You are safe here," she told their leader, an elderly female named Thessakin. "You have nothing to fear anymore." Thessakin looked at her with huge wet eyes. "You do not know what you risk by helping us. The Concord will not forgive this." "The Concord did not forgive us for surviving," Chen replied. "They did not forgive us for succeeding. They will not forgive us no matter what we do. So we might as well do what is right." The Keth were settled in a community in New Zealand. Within months, they had become valuable members of their new home. Their skills in agriculture and animal husbandry helped local farmers increase their yields. Their gentle nature made them beloved by human children. Their gratitude was boundless, and they were not alone for long. More ships came. The Venthi, a species of engineers whose planet had been stripped of resources by the Concord. The Solori, aquatic beings whose oceans had been poisoned by Valorian weapons testing. The marine, tiny flying creatures who served as slaves to a dozen different empires. Each group was different. Each had their own culture, their own needs, their own challenges. But Earth welcomed them all. The logistics were overwhelming. Where would they live? What would they eat? How would they communicate? How would they integrate with both humans and the Thesari who were already there? But humanity had learned from the Thesari experience. This time, they were better prepared. Global organizations coordinated the response. Local communities volunteered to host refugees. Schools expanded to include new languages and new histories. It was chaos. Beautiful, compassionate chaos. The High Tribunal summoned Ambassador Chen to appear before them. She traveled to the Concord's capital station alone, against the advice of her security team. "If they want to kill me, 100 guards will not stop them," she said. "Better to face them with dignity." The journey took 2 weeks. When she arrived, she was escorted through corridors designed to make her feel small. The ceiling was 100 meters high. The walls were carved with images of Concord victories. Every surface screamed power. She was not impressed. The tribunal chamber was packed. Representatives from every major species had come to witness humanity's humiliation. The air was thick with hostility. High Arbiter Voss stood at the center, his 4 eyes fixed on Chen. "Ambassador Chen Wei Lin of Earth," he announced. You stand before the High Tribunal to answer for your species' crimes against galactic order. Chen walked calmly to the platform. She looked up at the assembled powers without fear. What crimes, specifically? You have harbored refugees from Concord-sanctioned operations. You have interfered with the natural order of galactic civilization. You have encouraged resistance among lesser species. We have shown kindness, Chen interrupted. That is our crime. We have treated others as we would wish to be treated. We have offered hope to those who had none. If these are crimes in the Concord's eyes, then we plead guilty. The chamber erupted in noise. Some shouted angrily. Others simply stared in disbelief. No one spoke to the High Tribunal like this. No one. Voss raised his hand for silence. You do not seem to understand your position, Ambassador. Earth is a minor planet, with no military power, and no political standing. We could destroy you with a single fleet action. Chen smiled. It was not a nervous smile. It was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose. You could try, she said, but I do not think you will. Oh, and why is that? Because the galaxy is watching. Right now, species across the Concord are seeing this trial. They are watching how you treat a species that chose compassion over cruelty, and they are asking themselves, if Earth can stand up to you, why can we not do the same? She turned slowly, addressing not just Voss but the entire assembly. You gave us your unwanted. You're broken. You're condemned. You expected us to fail. You expected us to prove that we were no better than you, that kindness was a weakness, that compassion was a flaw. But we did not fail. We built something beautiful. We proved that there is another way. And now, species across the galaxy are looking at Earth and wondering if maybe, just maybe, the Concord has been wrong all along. The chamber was utterly silent. You can destroy us, Chen continued. You have the power, but you cannot destroy what we represent. The idea of compassion is out there now. It is spreading, and no fleet, no army, no tribunal can stop an idea whose time has come. She stood straight and proud, a single human facing the might of a galactic civilization. So do what you will. Earth is not afraid. The tribunal deliberated for 3 days. In the end, they decided on sanctions rather than war. Earth would be cut off from certain trade routes. Human ships would be restricted from entering Concord space. Economic pressure would be applied to force compliance. It was a punishment. But it was also a retreat. The Concord had blinked. When Chen returned to Earth, she was greeted as a hero. Millions watched her ship enter the atmosphere. Millions more listened to her address to the United Nations. We have been threatened, she told the world. We have been isolated. But we have not been destroyed, and we will not be silenced. Today, I am proud to announce that the Thesari population on Earth has formally requested permanent residency. After 7 years of building lives here, of contributing to our society, of becoming part of our family, they wish to call Earth their home. I am also proud to announce that a global referendum will be held next month. The people of Earth will vote on whether to grant the Thesari and all other refugee species full citizenship and the right to remain. The referendum campaign was fierce. Some opposed integration, arguing that Earth should focus on its own people. Others supported it, pointing to all that the refugees had contributed. But in the end, the result was decisive. 71% of humanity voted yes. The Thesari would stay. The Keth would stay. The Venthi, the Salori, the Marine, all of them would stay. Earth was no longer just a human planet. It was something new, something unprecedented, a world where compassion was law. The footage of the referendum results spread across the galaxy like fire. Concord censors tried to suppress it, but they could not. The images were everywhere. Humans and aliens celebrating together, crying together, embracing each other as citizens of the same world. And everywhere the footage went, it sparked something. Conversations that had been whispered now became shouts. Questions that had been forbidden now became demands. Why did we let this happen to the Thesari? Why did we stand by while the Valorians conquered the weak? Why do we accept a system that values only power? Is there another way? The answers were complicated. But the question itself was revolutionary. On a dozen worlds, resistance movements began to form. On 100 stations, creatures who had been silent began to speak. On 1,000 ships, travelers looked toward a small blue planet and wondered if they might find welcome there. The Concord had ruled for 10,000 years. It had seemed eternal, unchangeable, a fact of galactic life. But now, for the first time, cracks were appearing in the foundation, and in the chambers of the High Tribunal, High Arbiter Voss stared at his screens and felt something he had not felt in centuries: fear. "They are just primitives," his assistant said. "They cannot threaten us. They have no power. They have something worse than power," Voss replied quietly. "They have hope, and hope is contagious." He turned away from the screens, his four eyes dark with worry. "Prepare the contingency plans. All of them. If we cannot contain this peacefully, we will contain it by force." "Yes, High Arbiter. And the Valorians?" Voss was silent for a moment. Then he made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Tell the Valorian commander that the Tribunal will not interfere if he wishes to. Remind Earth of its place, quietly, without official sanction." "You want them to attack Earth?" "I want this problem solved, by any means necessary." In the cold darkness of space, war machines began to move. And on Earth, the people who had chosen compassion went about their daily lives, unaware of the storm that was gathering. But they would learn soon. And when they did, they would discover that the bonds they had built, the love they had shared, was stronger than any weapon. The galaxy was about to find out what humans were really made of. 10 years after the refugees arrived, the Valorian fleet came for Earth. The first warning came from a Venthi engineer who worked on a station near Valorian space. She had heard rumors. She had seen ships gathering. She had risked her life to send a message across the stars. "They are coming," the message said. 40 warships, the largest fleet they have ever assembled. They will be at Earth in 30 days. Ambassador Chen received the message at 3 in the morning. She did not sleep for the rest of the night. By dawn, every world leader had been informed. Emergency meetings were held in every capital. Military advisors calculated odds and scenarios. The numbers were not good. Earth's defensive fleet consisted of 50 small patrol ships, designed for rescue missions and asteroid mining. They had no weapons that could scratch a Valorian battlecruiser. Against 40 warships, they would last perhaps 10 minutes. "We cannot win this fight," General Morrison told the Security Council. "We need to negotiate. Surrender on favorable terms. Maybe the Concord will intervene." "The Concord wants this to happen," Chen replied. "They are the ones who let the Valorians loose. They want us destroyed as a warning to others." "Then what do we do?" Chen looked around the table at the frightened faces. Humans, Thesari, representatives from a dozen other species who had made Earth their home. All of them were looking to her for answers. She did not have any. "Not yet. We have 30 days, she said finally. "We use them. Send messages to every species we have ever helped. Tell them what is happening. See if anyone will stand with us." "You think they will? Against the Valorians?" Chen thought of Ishel Ra, the gentle soul who had died saving a child. She thought of Marcus, who had become a symbol of human Thesari friendship. She thought of all the refugees who had found safety and hope on Earth. "I do not know," she admitted. "But we have spent 10 years showing the galaxy that compassion matters. Now we find out if anyone was listening." The messages went out across the galaxy. Some were official diplomatic communications. Others were personal pleas from refugees to their distant relatives. All of them carried the same message: "Earth is in danger. Will you help?" The first responses were disappointing. Most species were too afraid to reply. Others sent apologies and excuses. The Valorians were too powerful. The Concord was too threatening. Standing with Earth would mean destruction. But then, on the 5th day, something changed. The Keth responded first. Their message was brief. "You gave us a home when we had none. We will stand with you." They had no military power. Their contribution would be symbolic at best. But it mattered. The Salori were next. Then the Mrain. Then species that Earth had never directly helped, species who had simply heard the stories, seen the footage, dreamed of a different galaxy. By the 10th day, 42 species had pledged their support. It was not a military alliance. Most of these species had no weapons, no ships, no way to fight. But they made their positions clear to the Concord. An attack on Earth was an attack on them. High Arbiter Voss received these declarations with increasing fury. "This is absurd," he told the tribunal. "These species have nothing. They are nothing. Their support changes nothing." "With respect, High Arbiter," an advisor said, Their support changes public opinion. Across the Concord, people are watching. If we destroy Earth now, we also destroy 42 other species. The political cost would be enormous. Let it be enormous. We cannot allow this rebellion to spread. The Valorian commander is requesting guidance. Should he proceed? Voss hesitated. For the first time in his long career, he felt uncertain. The calculations that had always guided the Concord power, efficiency, rational self-interest, those calculations said to destroy Earth immediately. But something else was happening, something he did not understand. Tell the commander to proceed, he said finally. But also tell him to be prepared for complications. The Valorian fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system on the 28th day. They were magnificent in their terrible way, massive red ships bristling with weapons, designed for conquest and destruction. Each battlecruiser could reduce a city to ash in seconds. Together, they could burn Earth to bare rock. Commander Krath stood on the bridge of his flagship and looked at the small blue planet in the distance. Such a tiny thing, he said to his officers. Such a small cause for such a large problem. Shall we begin the attack, Commander? Not yet. First, we broadcast. Let them see what is coming. Let them know fear. His face appeared on every screen on Earth. His voice thundered from every speaker. People of Earth, I am Commander Krath of the Valorian Empire. You have defied the natural order. You have sheltered the weak and given hope to the hopeless. For these crimes, you will be destroyed. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. Your leaders will be executed. Your population will be enslaved. Your planet will become a mining colony for the Empire. If you do not surrender, we will simply kill everyone. Choose quickly. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, billions of people stared at their screens in horror. In shelters and homes, parents held their children. In churches and temples, people prayed. In military bases, soldiers prepared for a battle they knew they could not win. But in the Thessari communities, something else was happening. The elders were gathering. The leaders of every refugee species were coming together. And at the center of them stood a figure that no one had expected. Matriarch Ishilra, not Ishilra who had died in Munich. Her daughter, named in her honor, raised on her stories, trained in her wisdom. The young matriarch was only 40 years old, barely an adult by Thessari standards, but she had grown up on Earth. She had seen what was possible when species chose love over fear, and she was not willing to let it end. I will speak to them, she told the gathered leaders. I will speak to everyone. The Valorians will not listen, a Keth elder said. They only understand force. I am not speaking to the Valorians, the young matriarch replied. I am speaking to their crews, to their soldiers, to every being on those ships who has ever dreamed of something better. She walked to a communication console. Her skin glowed brighter than anyone had ever seen, brilliant patterns of light that spoke of love and hope and defiance. Broadcast this on all frequencies, she said. Let everyone hear. The message went out across space. It reached the Valorian fleet. It reached the Concord stations. It reached every ship and every world that had the technology to receive it. And on the bridge of his flagship, Commander Krath watched as a young Thessari female appeared on his screens. My name is Ishilra, she said. 10 years ago your Concord threw my people away like garbage. They dumped us on a planet of primitives and expected us to die. They expected the humans to fail. They expected cruelty to win, as it always has. But something different happened. The humans welcomed us. They did not have enough food, so they shared what they had. They did not understand our language, so they learned. They did not know how to help us, so they taught themselves. We were strangers from another star. They made us family. Her skin pulsed with patterns of light, patterns that even non-empaths could somehow understand. Patterns that spoke of warmth and connection and hope. My mother died here, on Earth. She died protecting a child, a human child she had never met. She gave her life because she had learned, from humans, that all life is precious, that love knows no species, that compassion is the truest strength. Today, you come to destroy us. You think your weapons make you powerful. You think your empire makes you strong. But I have seen true power, and it does not come from the barrel of a gun. True power is a doctor who works through the night to save a life. True power is a farmer who shares his harvest with strangers. True power is a child who holds the hand of someone who looks different and says, "Do not be afraid. I am your friend." She paused, and her light grew even brighter. I know there are people on your ships who understand this. I know there are soldiers who are tired of killing. I know there are officers who dream of peace. I am speaking to you now. You do not have to do this. You can choose differently. You can be the generation that changes everything. Look at Earth. Look at what we have built. Humans and Thessari and Keth and Solori and 100 other species living together in peace. It is possible. It is real. And you can be part of it. Please, put down your weapons. Choose hope. The broadcast ended. Silence fell across the fleet. Commander Krath stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he laughed. A pretty speech. But speeches do not stop plasma cannons. All ships, prepare to. Commander. An officer's voice interrupted him. We have a problem. What problem? The crew. They are not responding to orders. Some are refusing to man their stations. Others are actively sabotaging weapon systems. We are receiving reports of the same thing across the fleet. Krath's red face went pale. That is impossible. My soldiers are loyal. They were loyal, Commander. But they just heard something they have never heard before. Someone told them they do not have to kill. Someone told them there is another way. And some of them believe it. Krath turned back to the view screen. Earth hung in the darkness, small, blue, utterly defenseless. He could still destroy it. He still had enough loyal crew to fire the main weapons. But what then? What would he return to? A fleet in mutiny? An empire where soldiers questioned orders? A galaxy where the Valorians were known as the ones who destroyed hope? For the first time in his warrior's life, Commander Krath was afraid. Not of death, not of failure. He was afraid of being on the wrong side of history. Commander? Your orders? Krath closed his 4 eyes. He thought of his children, growing up in a galaxy of endless war. He thought of his soldiers, dying for causes they did not understand. He thought of the Thessari girl's words. You can be the generation that changes everything. Pull back, he said quietly. Commander, I said pull back. All ships. We are returning to Valorian space. The officer stared at him in shock. But, the tribunal, they ordered us to destroy Earth. Let them destroy it themselves. Krath turned away from the view screen. I am done killing for old men who will not hold the weapons themselves. We are done. The Valorian fleet withdrew. Across Earth, people watched their screens in disbelief as the red ships turned and moved away. There was no celebration at first, only shock. They had been certain they were about to die, and now, somehow, they were not. Then the cheering began. It started in small pockets, groups of friends, families huddled in shelters, strangers on the streets. It grew and spread, becoming a wave of joy that swept across the planet. Humans and Thessari and Keth and Solori danced together in the streets. Children laughed. Elders wept. They had won. Not with weapons, not with force, with love. The ripples spread far beyond Earth. When news of the Valorian retreat reached the Concord, chaos erupted. Crews on dozens of stations refused to work. Politicians demanded answers. The High Tribunal was flooded with protests. Within a month, High Arbiter Voss had been removed from power. Within a year, the High Tribunal itself was dissolved. A new body took its place, the Galactic Assembly, with representatives from every species, great and small. Earth was invited to be a founding member. Ambassador Chen, now old and gray, made the journey to the Concord's capital station one last time. But this time, she was not summoned as a criminal. She was welcomed as a hero. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Trillions watched as humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as teachers. Not as the strongest, but as the most compassionate. Chen's speech was short. 10 years ago, we were given 6 million refugees as a punishment. We were expected to fail. We were expected to prove that compassion was a weakness, that kindness was foolish, that only power mattered. We proved something else instead. Today, we join this assembly, not because we are powerful, but because we believed in something. We believed that every life has value. We believed that strangers can become family. We believed that the future could be better than the past. We were right. The galaxy is changing. Old empires are falling. New ways of living are rising. It will not be easy. There will be struggles ahead, and setbacks, and those who wish to return to the old ways of cruelty and force. But we have seen what is possible. We have lived it, and we will never go back. She raised her hand, and beside her, the young matriarch HFY raised hers. This is what Earth offers the galaxy. Not weapons, not armies, not domination. Just this. If you need help, we will help you. If you need a home, we will welcome you. If you need hope, we will share ours. That is our gift. That is our strength. That is who we are. Years later, Ambassador Chen, retired now, living quietly with her grandchildren, walked through a memorial garden on Thesari Prime. The planet had been rebuilt. Where ashes had once covered the ground, flowers now bloomed. Where ruins had stood, cities rose. It had taken decades of work, countless resources, and the effort of a dozen species working together, but it was real. Thesari Prime was alive again. Chen walked slowly along the paths, admiring the glowing plants and the crystalline sculptures. Beside her walked Marcus, old now, gray-haired, still healing but mostly healed, and beside him walked HFY's grandchildren, born on Earth but visiting their ancestral homeworld for the first time. At the center of the garden stood a monument. It was simple, a pillar of white stone with words carved in both human script and Thesari light patterns. Chen stopped before it and read the inscription one more time. They meant to bury us. They did not know we were seeds. She smiled, watching the children run among the flowers, human and Thesari and Keth and others, indistinguishable in their joy. The galaxy had changed. Not all at once, not without struggle, but genuinely and permanently changed. Species that had been enemies now worked together. Worlds that had been isolated now reached out to each other. The old ways of cruelty and conquest were fading, replaced by something new, something better. It had started here, with a cruel gift of 6 million refugees. It had grown through 10 years of struggle and sacrifice and love, and now it was spreading across the stars, changing everything it touched. Chen took Marcus's hand and squeezed it gently. "Do you think she can see this?" he asked quietly. "The first HFY, I mean. Do you think she knows what happened?" Chen looked up at the sky, where Earth's star glittered among millions of others. "I think she always knew," Chen said. "She knew that compassion was stronger than cruelty. She knew that love was more powerful than hate. She knew that if we just kept trying, kept believing, kept choosing the right path, eventually, we would get here. She was right. She was right." The children's laughter rang through the garden. The flowers glowed in response, adding their light to the fading sun. And somewhere, in the vast darkness between the stars, the future was being born, a future of cooperation instead of conquest, of compassion instead of cruelty, of hope instead of fear, all because, 10 years ago, humanity had made a choice, not the path of cruelty, the path of love.